Hello and welcome back to the Crypto Ethic podcast or YouTube video. Both, I think it's going out to you. So my name is Tansy and I am the founder and lead coach of the Crypto Ethic. And I am here with Anja.
I'm Anja Klaus. Hello. And I've been with Tansy and the Crypto Ethic for a year and a half or something like that. And I'm the Crypto Ethic editor.
So the topic today is women in crypto, women in finance. There's probably going to be a bit of a merge there. So do you want to start? Do you
All
want me to
related.
start?
Oh, you're so good at starting. Why don't you start?
Oh gosh, I'm like, okay. I'm like, what am I gonna say?
Are you
Like notes. Um, well, I've just been thinking about when we were thinking about this topic. I mean, it's something that is really relevant, I think, obviously to Anya and I being women. Um, but I really just wanted to sort of land in that feeling of the sort of the resistance, the restriction that women really have towards finance in particular, just this sense that we don't really know what's going on in terms of the kind of greater financial management. So we might know how to make money in our own lives or run businesses, but in terms of how to invest, how to be a part of a bigger financial system or enterprise, I think a lot of women feel left out of that conversation. We feel that we're not really going to have the technical know-how to enter the financial realms. And I was doing some kind of fact collecting before we started, and it was so extraordinary to see just how actually in the proportion of women making money, but at the moment today, more than 40% of women in the US are the primary breadwinners for their family. And it is estimated, so most women identify themselves as the primary shoppers in most households, and it is estimated that US women's total annual purchasing power is between $5 and $15 trillion. And women are believed to be behind 85% of all consumer purchases. And we're more likely to shop online than men. And so it's this feeling that like actually women are contributing to the kind of financial arena hugely in the sense of their expenditure. But what is not present is the fact that they actually make far less money than men to the cost of, I think it is that the wage gap for an average woman, or a study by the National Women's Law Center found that the wage gaps between men and women, it's 430,000 over the course of a woman's career, less than the man. It's a huge disparity between what women kind of take home, but also where they're spending. So they're spending a huge amount, they're contributing a huge amount to the economy, but what they're actually bringing home is much less. And I feel like I'm sort of landing on different disparities. But I just wanted to sort of say that I felt like there was this barrier between women actually knowing how to invest and knowing how to like actually make money for themselves and for their retirement, things like that. So I might pause.
Yeah, I mean, I always hear about these kinds of statistics, this huge difference between what men and women earn. And also then this gap between women investing, not only earning, but then investing. And it's sort of maybe coming from a different place. But like for me, my big goal was to align what I love to do or what was important with me with trying to get some income, because otherwise, your waking life is so much focused on getting this financial income so that you can have shelter and food and things like that and support your family. I was always like, this financial world in terms of investing was a place that just seemed closed to me. Like their traditional finance, it was like hard to understand. And it was almost like you hear about legal language sometimes is so complicated, and that it's intentional in part. It's sort of like the gatekeeper, the language, and it's not inviting. It's not like opening the door to people and reaching out and giving them a hand in. It's more of sort of this group of people, and they kind of stick together, and they keep those gates closed. And there's no real sense of then that you can join, and especially with finance. Like, I didn't grow up in school, we weren't taught about financial investing or even like balancing a checkbook. And I've always been bad at balancing checkbooks. And partly, I think, because money was just this weird concept that just seemed out of reach. And in no way was it inviting me in, even like I just knew my main goal was, if I'm going to have to make this money in order to have an okay life, it's got to be something that's important to me. And sort of that was my only method forward, is that part. Until crypto. Well, crypto is like, then that sort of changed that whole dynamic for me. Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't anymore like something was sealed off and kind of like scary, and like things were like all these charts and information was above me.
Mm,
And crypto, sort of the energies of crypto, it's more like these big arms, like waiting for you to come in
mm.
and give you a hug. Sometimes smack you across the face,
Yeah, sometimes that too.
but it's yeah. So it kind of changed my whole relationship to money once I discovered it.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. I love that you sort of bring it back to you, and your experience, because I think so many women find that same experience. We really want to do what we love, to earn money doing what we love, but there's this sort of this fear around investment too, and taking control and knowing where to put our money, and knowing how to do it. And that whole financial sector just seems so foreign. And like you say, the use of jargon is a way to, or like technical language is a way to kind of separate, the people that know and the people that don't know. And I think it's strange because when you come to crypto, I think a lot of women that come to crypto are looking for something sort of different. They're inspired by the possibilities of a new system, a new way of making money, diversifying their portfolio. But I think what it does is it's the backdoor entry into this huge financial arena that we didn't feel we had access to originally. I don't think I ever would have. I mean, I did learn about economics, but in a broader sense. But in my own life, I wasn't trading. I wasn't knowing how to invest in stocks and shares. I would leave that to somebody else, usually, a man at the bank, um, if I even did that. And yet, so I wasn't necessarily inspired by the kind of investment in a traditional way. That always felt like something I wouldn't know how to do. And that's where this boundary feels like it's almost that I think a lot of women have this sense that they're not welcome, that we don't really understand. You don't really understand about money. And I think it's something that has been ingrained in us for a long time, in many decades, of not being able to be the main breadwinner and having that power kind of taken away from us, that there was this sense that we didn't fully understand and we would never be able to fully understand. Whereas when you start learning about crypto, you kind of have to understand about economics. You have to start to understand about money. But the way that it's brought is in a way that feels exciting and empowering. Um, and I think that there's the learning is still difficult in a way. Like, I don't think it's that easy for people to access all of the knowledge in crypto. But once you know that, it does feel so much more accessible. Like you say, it's almost the whole world of finance and investment is sort of out there. Um, and then when you step through crypto and you kind of come through it, you weave your way through it, it's almost like it's you're able to go and clasp it, you're able to go and pick the apples, you're able to invest how you want to invest, and you can actually you I would feel comfortable actually moving into the stock market if I wanted to move out of crypto, just because of what I've learned being in crypto. it kind of, you have to understand a bit of the blueprint of the financial system, and it feels accessible suddenly. And I think that's what's so empowering about this space. I think even more so than for men, I think the way that women, when we learn about crypto, we're learning about finances, we're learning to take control. And I think the empowerment piece there is so profound.
Yeah, it's interesting because I actually, now that we're talking about this more, I'm remembering that I sort of started the investment journey through Tesla, actually, because I had heard about it online and it sounded really interesting. Just the concept, and I don't know. I guess I had heard about Tesla for some years, but then I think it was actually via during COVID. All the markets crashed, but then Tesla stock was just going up and up and up, and everybody was talking about it, and there was just sort of this excitement and disbelief. And I'm like, "Oh, this I don't know, somehow it was like something pulled me into it." And then a neighbor had some kind of app that it was easy to use for sort of the individual. You didn't have to get a stockbroker or whatever. I don't even know the terms, that's how, like, uneducated I am in this. But it was my sort of my gut instinct just led me this way, this sense of excitement, novelty, and then my gut. And so I was in Tesla for a while, and then I made some money, but then I heard about Bitcoin. And then I was like, "Oh, this is even more exciting and more interesting," and my gut was feeling even more stronger about it. So I moved all my money off of Tesla and that financial system and moved it into the crypto world. And I've been there ever since. And I'm so happy I did that. But I have to thank Tesla for some of my initial investment.
It shows that you're drawn to that, to like seeking out other opportunities.
Yeah.
And Tesla in its own way is that kind of um innovative driving force. It wasn't like Shell or BP that you're investing in, you're investing in
No.
Tesla.
Right.
So it's like that kind of, it's part of that visionary quest. But crypto is like, oh, I'm on a different, it's like a whole different runway.
Yeah. Totally different plane.
Yeah. But oh,
Yeah.
um but it's so, I mean, it's so interesting because I actually did really badly in investments. I kind of invested, I did some 2008 investing. So I had a bit of money then. And I remember I had to take it to like the bank to like set it up.
Oh,
And 6 months later, it crashed. And so I was like, by that time, I was like, oh, I should kind of do some investments here. And so I was really put off because I didn't know enough about it. And I had to trust someone at the bank to kind of advise, to say whether it was a good time. And I think that's what I love about crypto as well, is that I know nowadays you have more ability to kind of choose your stocks and know how to get involved. But I think back then I found it really, I felt like a kind of a young woman who didn't really know what she was doing. I had to rely on this older man in the bank, and he basically told me something that was wrong, that, my investments would be safe and, or, not that risky ultimately. But because it was the 2008 crash, I lost a lot of, not a lot, but I lost the money that was there. And I was so put off because I didn't feel like I had any control. And even with the volatility in crypto, I get to decide. I get to choose, and I can make a response quickly, which is why it's important to steady the mind. But I'm able to decide what I want to invest in. I'm able to decide um, just how much, like, what I feel like a good project. I feel that there is this, it's just such a different experience of how I relate to a financial system. And I think the old one just feels so, like, even now I still feel this like patriarchy around it. Um, like, even I think for most people, like, we don't really understand like the principles of stocks and shares. We don't really understand what um like the different savings accounts, what they mean, and like these different retirement accounts. I don't think that in this in our society we are given enough information about how to, you know, create abundance for our future based on the work that we do now. And I think that women are even more left out of that conversation. And I think it's so important to, I think whether you want to learn crypto or not, I think it's so important to feel empowered um, to learn about money, to learn about our financial system, and to start to allow it to reflect a kind of feminine perspective. Because I think I think the way that it's created is so deliberately complex that everybody is sort of shut out of it, but particularly women. And I think it actually, when you look at it, you think, I would never have created this. I would never have bought into this. I would never be holding dollars. We just, I think it's less that, I think we don't know, but I think we're deliberately not given the information, because I think if we knew it, we would not be wanting to partake in it. And I think particularly the feminine, I think we'd be like, who's been running this show? I think we need to take over.
Yeah, I feel like with crypto, there's a sense more of where you can make your own decisions. You can use a combination of your intuition and the things that you learn, because there's so much information out there, so much information where you can learn either quickly or slowly, however you want. And nobody's judging you for how you get into crypto that way. Some people might want to just jump in, so some people want to be really cautious. Some people want to just independently do it, and some people want some guidance. And so I like that flexibility. And this flexibility, I think, gives you power, and you being able to use that intuition that you have also gives you that feminine power that is, scorned or laughed at in sort of traditional financial arena.
Agree. And I wanted to say something when we are talking about women in crypto, because
Yeah.
I read a statistic that said that only 9% of women think that they are better investors than men. So there's this belief that like I've sort of said about the women being like, about the feminine sort of being left out um of this space a little bit or a lot. And this there's this feeling in most women that we're not good at choosing. We're not good at deciding. So even if you were thinking about entering the space, it's like, oh, I'm probably not going to be good at it anyway. Maybe I'll find someone else to do it for me, or maybe my partner can do it. Um, so I love, like when you were saying, like you can do it in lots of different ways. Like you can kind of come at it slowly. You can have a guide. You can have a supportive community. But what there's a lot of evidence to suggest is that although only 9% of women think that they are a better investor than men, in actual fact, women tend to be much better investors than men in general. So the reason for that is they tend to be a bit more cautious, a bit more, they like to have all the information. And when they start to do well, they can keep a level head. There is this sort of, it's a really interesting link. Actually, I was speaking to a professional archer, one of the best in the UK. He's an archer. And he was saying that um, although the majority of men think that they are better at archery, that actually women tend to be really good, not because they have the strength, but because they are really able to control their emotions. And so when a man kind of misses a shot, there's an anger that can like upset his ability to kind of like create that consistency, whereas the woman can kind of balance their emotions and just be focused on the job. And so he said that actually that women can be better archers than men because of that ability to calm their emotions and not to kind of get carried away with wanting to win, for example. And so I think the kind of the energy in a way is similar with finance and investment, is that there's this there's a less reactive quality. And I know, like, we're kind of generalizing, of course, and sometimes you have to when you're talking about these subjects. But in general, women tend to perform better than men when we are investing. So actually what women believe about themselves that they're not as good is actually mistaken. They do tend to be better. Um,
I
it's
mean,
this
that's pretty mind-blowing
mm,
because or heart-blowing or something because you're taught like, "Oh, women, they're so emotional. They can't handle their emotions. They're too emotional," and it's always, like, showing this sort of negative side of our emotional expressions.
mm.
So this is, like, really interesting.
Yeah. And funny enough, like with that piece is that we may be kind of emotional inside about like our own emotions, but when it comes to doing something, we are actually we can be quite steady, we can be quite calm and quite considered. And at the same time, that that emotional piece in the feminine tends to come out with women wanting to align where they put their investments with meaning. So there was the research by the Center for Talent Innovation found that women look to wealth to provide a larger basket of goods, but not just for themselves and their families, but for society at large. And 88% of women surveyed expressed interest in investing in organizations which promote social well-being. So it's for society as a whole. So there's a more so that intuitive, emotional, empathetic part is extended. So although like for our own personal investments, we tend to be much more considered, we tend to be much calmer. We are also, when we're considering our investments, we tend to consider those that are emotionally supportive or ones that like feed our emotional well-being. And so
Mm.
there are some that say that if women had more capacity within the financial realm, where would the investments go? They would be directed towards companies and products that were for the greater good. And so it's an interesting thing to see that if actually more women could just enter this space, that it could really maybe start to change the way that the world works even.
We need more women.
We do need more women.
Come on, girls. Feminine energies.
We need you. We do.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I mean, another thing with
Mm,
crypto is that in the crypto world, there does seem to be a lot of community building. People
mm.
see the power and the value of Bitcoin and crypto space, including NFTs, and people get so excited and about this that they tend to then gravitate towards each other and have discussions and support each other, and you really, really see that. I mean, with men as well, it's just all over sort of the YouTube and Twitter world, and there's always, like, the creeps, but that's in regular life too. But I feel like, especially now, at this day and age with Zoom and having relationships all across, on the other side of the world, you know, this sort of internet uh, community is really, really powerful with crypto because it's something we can rally around and get excited about, even though we're not in the same nation, not in the same state, so it's powerful that way, that community building.
It's so powerful. And I think that was one of the pieces that really drew me in at the beginning was just how connective it was. Just
Yeah.
how it really brought people together. Um, because we all are aligned on the same principles. And we have, I think everybody who's kind of called to it in some ways is or sees its potential or starts to align themselves with that potential. There's a shared mindset. And that's what really connects us. And when you're connected around value, I don't know, there's just something really powerful about that. Um, because we're so used to kind of having disagreements and sort of and like kind of turning off our own ideas. But when we actually are aligned on like quite a fundamental principle,
Mhm.
you're finding what connects you rather than what pulls you apart. And I think that's so powerful. And this is something that can connect everyone, like you say, from all over the world.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the projects in crypto called Cardano. which I've talked about with Anya quite a bit, is so powerful in the fact that they were kind of slower to release their blockchain, because what they were doing is, rather than just releasing their technology to the West, or to kind of, particularly the men, it's the technical part of the crypto space is still dominated by men, in terms of the developers. So what Cardano did is it went into Africa and it was training up women, to become web developers and to use their technology. And I just thought that was so powerful. It's it's plugging everybody into the same connective community, but that also showing where the skill is where, I don't know, skill is needed and where it's like not being found. So in the women in Africa, and they were trying to support that. So there is this hugely altruistic aspect of the crypto space, trying to bring everyone in rather than trying to create separation. Um, so you're
Yeah, and I mean, there seems to be a lot of crypto activity in Africa, I think, because there are so many unbanked people
mm,
who do have phones, who do need more help with empowering themselves financially. So they're not dependent on, let's say, the mining company that comes into town, or, they can be more free in terms of getting some financial power. So I think yeah, I mean, that's one of the beauties that I find is also very powerful with crypto, is helping the unbanked
mm,
become financially powerful just with an app, a phone, and blockchain. That's cool.
it's very cool. um, so did you want to say anything else about women in crypto?
Uh, no, just again that we want to see more feminine power people come
Mm.
into the space and be part of the community, the ever growing community. And there's so much growth to come, so much energy, and yeah, yeah. So it's not just women singularly coming into it, but groups of women. And there's a lot of groups of women coming together and like creating NFT art and NFT fashion, and it's more about expression, having the power to express what you want, how you want, and making it beautiful. uh so yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Love that.
But that's all I have to say.
No, I love it. Um, yeah, I think we've covered sort of everything I was thinking about. I
Yeah,
mean, not everything, but we always have such long
good enough for
conversations.
now.
Good for now.
Yeah.
And I guess just to say finally at the end is just, if anybody watching this wants to learn,
Mm.
then I think that the program that we've created is so powerful and beautiful. And, we're here to support anyone coming through the program. So if you're a woman who wants to learn and you feel nervous, you feel fear, you don't want to learn through YouTube videos, and you want to be amongst, people who will really support you, then do reach out to us, and go to thecryptoethic.com and maybe book on our next program. So, yeah, thank you everyone who's watching for joining us, and we'll be back another time to talk about something else.
Ciao.
Bye.